Nacional de Comerciantes in Medellín. Come in, please.
Muy buenos días.
Buenos días.
Nuestra pregunta es la siguiente.
Our question is the following.
Mirar vidrieras, comparar precios y hacer compras sin salir de
To-
casa es tan apasionante como riesgoso para la
It is
gente.
very
Pero en cuanto a las
appealing
posibilidades
to
tan
do all your
simples como
shopping
que
through the
esperar
internet.
que el correo traiga el
However, it's
artículo que se ha
also
comprado desde la
costly.
pantalla, la tentación es inmensa.
It is very tempting just to
¿Cuál es la tendencia
push a
mundial
button
frente a los
and
medios de
make a
pago
click
con respecto a las tarjetas de crédito,
and
tarjetas
get your
débito y las
purchases online?
denominadas e-cards?
What are the
¿Qué otros medios de
tendencies
pago
in
pueden
like payment options like credit cards? I believe we lost our connection here, but the idea of the question was what are the types of payment or secure payment processes for online purchases?
So, payments and security online. You want to take that one, Carl?
The most standard form is called HTTPS, which is a secure socket layer, which allows for encryption of credit card. That also is done with a digital certificate on the server. That's the most basic form. It's set up by a web management team and companies and basically can handle all types of credit cards.
And really, is it not a myth that the internet is, say, less secure than giving your credit card to a gas station attendant?
I would postulate that it's actually more secure. Given the encryption techniques, the way that we can encrypt it in our databases, if you give it to a gas station attendant, they can virtually just rub off your number and they have information to go and do business.
Exactly. All right, we have another question coming to us from, this time from our friends in Cuba, from, Cuba just went away, unfortunately. We have a fax here from the Universidad Tecnológica in Hidalgo, Mexico. And this question is, do you foresee a more multilingual web in the future, or will English continue to be the main language of choice for the World Wide Web?
I can answer that actually from some personal experience. And we have a French and a German localized section of our website that we've had for several years. And we also bring traffic to our site from localized search engines in France and Germany. But we find the majority of our French and German visitors actually use the English site. And I think the reason for that is that the early adopters are typically very, to be on the web at all today, are very fluent in English. But I think as the web becomes more prevalent and penetrates more deeply into society in general, then I think the multilingual effect will be necessary.
Good. Carl, anything to add?
The only addition that I would make is I think we also need to look at the traditional business practices and the fact that we're having trouble in getting the nations of the world to move away from English as a choice to other languages. We have the technology in which speech recognition can easily make for language, translations very, very easily, but we're still going to get, people to be thinking of transacting business in other languages.
All right. Well, speaking of other languages, we have a caller from Mexico, from the Universidad de Sonora in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. Come in, please. What's your question?
Buenos días, un saludo
Buenos
de
días.
Hermosillo, Sonora, de la Universidad de Sonora.
Good morning. I completely agree with Dr. Redman in regard to the challenges and the importance, that is, the commercial importance of e-commerce. And I believe that much of this can be used while we're learning and about the technology. I don't only think we need to learn about the language, but I think we have to learn about the cultures in the different countries. Something that I think will be a key issue in the different governments across the globe is that there is going to be multi-million-dollar transactions, and that currently we don't have the control mechanisms that we can give the governments that will be able to cover all the responsibility in all these exchanges and commercial exchanges that is happening. So my question is there anything being done to supervise these transactions on a government level?
So government regulation of international e-commerce, what about it? Does it exist?
Well, it most definitely exists. To be able to tell you what form it currently takes, I can't do that. I know that it's as with any technology that we have, we do need to adopt worldwide standards, and in order to do so, it takes many, many years. The best example I can give you comes from the cell phone industries, where you have different competing standards of CDMA versus GSM. Those two standards have to work together to service the entire world, just like we have to come to standards for the internet. It's something that is a slow process. It's starting, and where it's going to go, I don't know.
But the internet is largely unregulated by governments, is it not?
Typically, and in fact, of course, it's the credit card companies that provide the international and universal medium for exchange, and often to the disappointment of governments that want to impose taxes and so on. And I think you're starting to see, for example, Europe trying to collect value-added taxes from companies that sell into Europe. So I think that this will be an increasing trend. I don't know who's going to actually control the flow of money. I suspect that Visa and MasterCard have it, at least for the next few years.
Indeed. All right, we have a caller from Santo Domingo, from Codotel. Your question, please.
Sí, buenos días. Nosotros queremos
Yes.
saber cuál es la evolución.
We would like to know what is the e-commerce evolution on an international level, and what would be the productive applications of internet.
So international e-commerce, I guess you can answer that both in terms of servers or in terms of customers. Where are they and what's going on internationally?
Again, I can speak a little bit from our experience. We sell software across the internet. We sell to virtually every country. People do buy and use their credit cards, like I said before, to buy from us.
And what percentage of your business is actually international?
It's actually low for a software company, which is interesting because of the way that we market it. It's actually about 18% is outside North America. And typically it would be much higher, and it's because outside North America people are still much less comfortable buying using e-commerce than they are inside North America.
And competition from other countries, does that exist for your business, or is it mostly domestic competition?
Very little. Actually, we do have some competition from the Ukraine, where they have a lot of programmers, and they've picked up on that model because it provides a country like that a quick way to get to industrialized countries.
That's why we call it the World Wide Web. Well, our next caller is from Mexico, from the Universidad Tecnológico de Tecamacalco in Puebla, Mexico. Come in, please.
Sí, muchas gracias. Un saludo para todos. Buenos días. Nuestra pregunta es, ¿existen
Our
leyes
question
o normatividades
has to do with, is there laws or international laws that regulates trade or
que debemos de conocer acerca
trade
de
and
ellas?
services,
Gracias.
and what do we have to know about these laws? Thank you.
Well, what about international legal requirements or regulations? Pretty much absent, or are there some?
Well, you have the World Trade Organization, which has had the responsibilities for many years of regulating traditional trade. So it's only natural that we would look to this organization to, look to international laws. To know the current state, this is such a new development that there are still many parties trying to sort it all out. And I would, defer back to what Paul had mentioned earlier, is that currently it's the credit card companies, the people who are, conducting the transactions that have the largest control over what the laws. However, it's the governments in the future that can change and shape those to different levels.
Okay. We're back to Santo Domingo to Codatel for another question. Your question, please.
Now we would like to know, on a legal level, what organizations do we have for protecting the consumer in this case?
Consumer protection?
I think virtually none. Certainly on an international level. I mean, within a country, say within the United States, we have the same sort of consumer protections that any company selling any product would have. But outside the United States, essentially, people have to, trust the vendor, and over a period of time, if you take care of your customers, people trust you and you build your business. But you have to build that trust. There's really not any international kind of monitor that I'm aware of.
And certainly market forces operate here.
Yes.
Obviously, if you're running a auction site or an e-commerce site and you're not delivering the products, that'll catch up with you pretty quick.
eBay provides a really good example of this. There's really no control on eBay about whether a seller is a trusted source or not, but they put places for people to complain or say, yeah, I dealt with this seller and they're a good one or they're a bad one. So it becomes purely a sort of market force, and it works pretty well.
And I heard there's a minuscule number of non-deliveries on eBay and other auction sites.
Because it's very transparent.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, we have a fax here from the Universidad Tecnológico in Panama, and their question is, can you give me an example of an organization that has traditionally sold through reseller channels, but which has now moved to e-selling? Got some examples of that?
Well, there's a lot of examples. One of the best ones I can think of would probably be the airlines. They, traditionally have sold through travel agents, and now they've actually banded together. I believe it's American United to provide a united front in terms of offering tickets on the web.
Even complex, things that required a resale channel. Like, for example, I actually looked these guys up because I was trying to use them as a contra example, and they defeated me. This is Steelcase, which is traditionally you buy very complicated sets of office furniture and cubicles and so on, and they have very exclusive resellers in certain areas. They are now selling some of their goods and materials right off the web to consumers, as well as using the reseller. So if it's simple, like a chair, you can buy it direct. If you need to have someone come out and measure your office, you buy it through the reseller.
Excellent. Well, we're back to our caller from Cuba, from Siena Internet in La Habana. Come in, Cuba.
Buenos días. Good morning, and hello from Cuba.
Hello.
Our question has to do with the following. Where are the connectivity costs of Internet going for the professional services, for the website development, and for other support costs associated with e-commerce, but not only in the United States, but also around the world? Thank you very much.
I would say that the costs are going to go up in all areas. Websites are becoming more and more complex as we get different programs like Flash and different levels. That's going to require a lot of experience, increases in your web design. Internet connectivity, bandwidth is limited. As much as we always increase it, we find more needs and uses for it, so that'll go up. And in terms of having to get connectivity internationally, there's a question of, is it going to be done with landlines or wireless? And so there's a lot of costs that will continue to increase with that.
Paul, anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's really a matter of production values. I think the actual cost per unit of what you do will go down. The problem is that you're going to be doing so much more that overall the cost will go up, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. Well, thank you for your questions, callers. We're now going to move to the second module of our program, and we'll continue with the question and answer segment following that session.
Thank you. No one said change is easy. If it were, we wouldn't be here today. Change pushes you out of your comfort zone and forces you to try something new. It can make you feel disoriented and even afraid. But change often brings with it exciting opportunities. Opportunities to capitalize on new ventures and ways of doing things. Opportunities to master a new medium, trade, or process and use it to your advantage. It goes without saying that the Internet is changing the way that people do business. It's transforming the relationship between a business and its customers, bringing them closer together. This can be threatening to intermediaries like third-party sales channels. Some businesses don't like this. They're resisting. They fight the revolution that is taking place and refuse to admit that the landscape of business is changing. These businesses continue to sell only in traditional channels. They don't want to adapt. The result? They're losing business now and will lose even more in the future as these changes take a firmer hold. Other businesses accept that this change is real. They realize that they're going to have to do something about the whole internet thing in order to compete in today's marketplace. But they're dragging their feet. They aren't too excited about the prospect of using the internet as a sales channel. They don't really want to put any resources into building a website or developing e-commerce strategies. So they fake it. They put up a website. They say, look, we're online. We have a website. But they don't take it any further. They don't make their website a viable resource for their customers. They don't sell their products online. And they'll lose business too in the long run. Visionary businesses see the rise of e-commerce as a challenge and an opportunity. They seize on the chance to form a closer relationship with their customers, and so they commit resources to developing an effective website. They research the best ways to bring customers to the site and encourage them to return again and again. They allow their customers to buy products and services off their website. These visionaries increase their business today and are positioning themselves for an even larger increase tomorrow. Here's the bottom line. If you want your business to be a success in today's marketplace, and especially tomorrow's marketplace, you must engage in e-commerce directly with your customers. Why? Because if you don't, others will. Others means your competition. They will cut into your market share and chew away at your sales until you are forced out of business or finally pushed into e-commerce too late. And by this time, you'll be a follower and not a leader. There are many real-world examples that illustrate this very phenomenon. Take Amazon and Barnes & Noble. In the mid-1990s, Amazon started selling books online. Barnes & Noble ignored this trend until it was too late. Finally, Barnes & Noble was forced to step up and start selling online. They've done this successfully, but now they're also ran against a powerful competitor that might not have even existed today had they been quicker to see the challenge. Who's going to be your Amazon? Are they out there already? The second reason why you must engage in e-commerce is that younger customers are increasingly shopping on the internet. According to a recent poll from Harris Interactive, people between the ages of 18 and 29 make up almost 30% of internet users. Even if younger customers are not your market now, they will be when they grow older. Even if you don't sell to consumers, the new internet-comfortable generation will eventually become your business customers, and they will want to do business using e-commerce. Ignoring this trend is dangerous. For example, for years Cadillac ignored the tastes of younger drivers and has seen its market share decline as its older customers literally die off. Don't let this happen to you. The third reason to embrace e-commerce is perhaps the most important one. It builds and transforms your relationship with your customers. When you sell online, you capture your customer's name, their email address, and now you know who they are. You know what they bought. You know what they like. Selling over your website allows you to develop an ongoing relationship with your customers. You can use this to increase customer loyalty and sell them even more. A good example of this is the high-end wine industry. A few years ago, a winery relied on restaurants and wine stores to introduce their wine to consumers. Now, many of them sell their wine directly to consumers from their websites, while continuing to sell the wine through these and other channels as well. As they form relationships with their customers, they use email to offer them an early opportunity to purchase new wine releases directly from the winery. They may also invite customers to a local wine store to taste new releases. This uses the direct relationship with the customer to benefit the channel partners as well as the winery. Finally, You can use the web to find new customers that you didn't have before. They will seek you out. Recent statistics show that 533 million people use the internet on a worldwide basis. That number is expected to grow to 945 million by the year 2004. In fact, the average adult internet user spends 8 hours a week on the web. That means that people who have never heard of you before can find you on the internet. If you are not on the web, you will lose that sale to someone else who is. You might ask, is developing an internet presence beneficial to all types of businesses and all types of organizations? My answer is yes. Every organization should have a web presence. While complex, high-cost products, like a Boeing 77, for example, are not going to be sold directly on the web, but the website could certainly collect leads. Almost anything sold under a reseller can be resold directly on the web. Even service organizations like universities can use the web to recruit students, service alumni, solicit contributions, and more. So to sum it up, here are the reasons that you must engage in e-commerce to be successful in today's marketplace. 1, if you don't sell online, your competition will. You will be forced to sell online or go out of business. 2, younger customers are buying off the internet. You must sell this way to capture the younger market as it matures. 3, selling online builds and transforms your relationships with your customer, enabling you to sell them more. And 4, the internet is now a very important source of new customers. And finally, 5, it's beneficial to everyone. Now that we've discussed why you have to do it, let's talk about how you do it. The first thing to understand is that the function of your website is building a relationship with your customers. Your website must be a valuable resource that your customers will come back to time and time again. There are several things that you can do to achieve this. 1, your website should give your customers useful information that is not necessarily just about your products. This seems like a no-brainer, but you'd be surprised how many websites don't do this. Of course, the information it gives should be relevant to your products and your customers' needs. For example, my company, SmartDraw.com, sells business graphics software. So, when you go to our website, you'll find information on business graphics. There are many examples of different kinds of diagrams and the best way to draw them. We answer common user questions. What do the symbols in a flowchart mean? What's the best way to draw an organization chart so that it fits on one page? There are case studies showing how customers use our products. By including useful information, you allow your customers to learn about what they are looking for. In addition to this general information, our site also provides, of course, information on SmartDraw's products and how to buy them. Secondly, your website should provide customers with web-based support as well as easy access to real support people. What if someone buys your product and they can't figure out how to use it, or it breaks? The first place more and more consumers will go is to the manufacturer's website. Your site had better provide them with a solution and make it easy to find. For example, the SmartDraw.com website has an entire section dedicated to customer support. There's a section that allows the customer to search the online database for the problem they are experiencing so they can fix it themselves. There are product manuals available that can be viewed and downloaded. There are all sorts of tutorials. But we also have a way for them to contact our support people via email and begin a dialogue. And of course, the most important thing, a phone number so they can call and speak to a human right away. In short, your website should help and reassure the end user. That's how you build customer loyalty and encourage your customers to come back time and time again. Next, like our site, your website should allow your customers to buy directly. Have you ever done a search on the internet, found what you are looking for, and then you can't find any information on how to buy it? Or the website says, look for this product in selected stores. Call this number for a store near you. I don't know about you, but I find this very frustrating, and I'm not alone. If this happens to me, I search for another supplier that will sell to me now. According to recent studies, about 63% of net surfers are researching products and services to buy on the internet. In fact, according to research by the Consumer Internet Barometer, 30% of households that have internet access have spent more than $250 online in the last 3 months. That means the likelihood is good that you will lose a high percentage of sales if you don't allow your customers to buy from your website. The idea of selling directly to customers is often one that is resisted by organizations that currently sell exclusively through resellers. Why? Because it creates channel conflict. Your salespeople don't like it. They don't get their commission. Resellers don't like it either. They worry that their jobs will become obsolete if all of the selling is done online. If you sell products directly to customers, what place is there for the reseller? The answer is that you must be able to sell in both ways for some time to come. Businesses need to expect this resistance, and they must find a solution to it. Get creative. For example, you could give the reseller closest to the customer you sell to directly some credit for the sale. You can differentiate between the products you sell directly to end users and those that are sold by resellers. There are many ways to go, but you have to find one or you'll be left behind by a competitor who does. Another crucial aspect of e-business. You must treat your website as a sales channel with its own infrastructure. Handing off web sales to the same sales department that is currently responsible for channel sales is often a recipe for failure. That's because your channel sales team has no desire to see direct sales succeed. That means you need a team devoted to treating web development and e-commerce as a priority, and also that has a stake in its success. I recommend doing this in-house. After all, would you outsource your sales force? Your website is part of your sales force. Outsourcing prevents you from being on the cutting edge. If you don't have someone in-house to do it, hire someone. The next step is to exploit the web as a source of new customers by driving traffic to your website with internet marketing techniques. This is too comprehensive a subject to go into detail about here, but here are some of the things that we use. The first is search engine sponsorship, otherwise known as pay-per-click. According to research, more than 79% of internet activity is conducted using search engines. Pay-per-click allows you to bid on certain search terms so that when people search the net for this term, your website pops up at the top of the results. For example, we bid on literally thousands of terms that are relevant to our products. For example, in many search engines, when a user searches for flowchart software, smartdraw.com is